Hello there, cosmonauts, and welcome back to NovaStar International, our Kerbal Space Program career mode. And right here, sitting on the launch pad, is the brand new NovaStar 8, an iteration on previous versions that is going to take us, hopefully, out of the atmosphere and into orbit around this very planet, the planet Kerbin. Our Kerbal engineers have been working on this for many months now, or in fact many days for Kerbal time, and it is sitting here in its majesty on the runway. We've got ourselves 3 SRBs, we've got ourselves a much larger main fuel tank and a brand new KW Rocketry engine, followed by a second stage which sports a smaller fuel tank and a pretty small engine that will hopefully get us into a really lovely Kerbal orbit. And that's the plan. We have our contract here to orbit the planet, and in doing so we'll get ourselves a whole heap of science, reputation, and the like. Jebediah sat in that cockpit once again, and he really is the only man for the job right here. And we have our NovaStar flag plastered on the side of the rocket. Good stuff. Let's launch off now. This launch is going to be a little bit different to previous launches. We are going to have to do things slightly differently here. Now, in order to get into orbit, we will need to do a gravity turn, a gravity assist, and that's certainly going to make things a lot easier. Now, previously, when we've been setting height records, our strategy has been to literally just blast off in a straight line as fast as possible and as high as possible. But in this situation, we need to tilt, and we need to tilt to the right a little bit earlier on, and that is basically so that we insert ourselves into an orbital sort of velocity, and you'll see exactly how it's going to work very soon. Once we get up to about 8,000 meters, I'm going to start rolling the craft to the right here, and we should start that roll right about now. Now, there is a little bit of a debate when this roll should be done, but I'm going to go ahead and start the roll now and stop it at about 45 degrees between basically completely upright and the horizon, heading 90 degrees. Now, we are basically turning our vessel so that, if you think about it, Kerbin rotates on its axis clockwise, and we are going against that so that Kerbin is rotating beneath us. That is basically going to assist our orbital insertion, and hopefully we're going to have enough delta V in this rocket, and we're going to do things well enough that we can get ourselves into orbit much more comfortably. Now, if you can imagine, if we go straight up, right, our apoapsis is going to go much higher, much faster, and once we get up to that altitude, we'll have to burn horizontally in order to get into orbit. Whereas if we do this, we kind of ease ourselves into it, and it does work out a lot better, and it does make things a lot more efficient. Now, in terms of actual orbiting, when you are orbiting a body, you are basically we need to... Whoa, okay, our engine is apparently okay. Well, apparently we don't have any okay, that's an interesting bug. We apparently don't have any fire coming out the back of our engine, but I can assure you our engine is certainly firing. We need to go a little bit faster. We need to bring our apoapsis here up to 75,000 meters before we cut the engines. Now, I've been having a lot of troubles with some of the mods recently. The game has been constantly crashing, and I've been getting these issues here and there. So that's probably explains the little bug here with the engine. But hopefully I'll have been able to resolve these issues, and the game will stop crashing, and we'll be able to play our damn game. That's kind of what I hope for. So, yeah, what was I saying? Basically, when you are orbiting a body, you are basically falling faster than the gravity is pulling you down. So if you are orbiting the body, you are essentially continually falling towards the planet, but you are going at such a horizontal velocity that you never actually reach the planet. So once we get up to our apoapsis, which isn't going to be too far, we'll want to burn horizontally here towards prograde, which is basically this marker on the nav ball, and that is going to widen our velocity, not our velocity, let's widen our orbital trajectory. So we've got plenty of fuel here. We've got lots and lots of fuel left still. We're not going to need a whole lot more fuel because we're in a pretty light vessel here. We've only got a tiny fuel tank, a tiny little crew module. We've only got one person aboard, so we're going to speed things up slightly until we reach our apoapsis here. And just before we hit it, we are going to start burning towards the horizontal, and we want to make sure that we are burning in such a way that we're not coming down to the ground too quickly. We want to kind of pitch up slightly so that our apoapsis doesn't get too far away from us. Now, as you can see, this is widening our trajectory, and if we widen it far enough, then we'll get ourselves into orbit. The question is, will we have enough fuel to do that? Will our engine, that is apparently not spewing out any hot gases from its rear end, unfortunately, will we have enough delta V to get ourselves into orbit? I think we might be just about okay. It's going to be a close one. Let's put it that way. It's going to be fairly close, but we'll need about, I think it's what, 2,300 meters per second to get into orbit here, and we are getting pretty close. Pretty damn close with 2,200, and we're going to start seeing our periapsis on the other side, and we cut our engines there. We've done it. We're into orbit, and there's literally 5.45 liquid fuel left in this engine. We are so low on fuel here, but we've basically done it. That's it. The contract is complete, and we've got ourselves into orbit there. 59,000 funds, 30 science, 142 reputation. I would not sniff at that. And now we're in orbit. We're just heading around to the dark side of the planet, unfortunately. We're going to be able to easily get back down to Kerbin. You might be thinking, oh, well, you've got no fuel left. How are you going to get back down? You used all this fuel to get up here. Surely you're going to need more fuel than this to get back. Well, no, in fact, all we have to do is once we get to our apoapsis, we'll burn retrograde, which is the opposite direction to which we are moving or orbiting. And that'll bring our periapsis down. Now, the nice thing about a planet with an atmosphere, such as Kerbin, is that when you hit that atmosphere, the friction between your vessel and the atmosphere itself will slow you right down. So all we have to do is bring our periapsis within 40,000 meters, ideally about 35, and we will start descending back towards the surface. And once we get to that altitude, the air resistance is going to slow us down, and as we slow down more and more, we're going to get captured by the planet, basically. It's kind of like aero braking. So we're going to switch ourselves around, turn around the opposite way to which we just burnt our engines, and we're going to speed up until we get to the apoapsis here, which is not too far away. It does not take too long to orbit the planet at this kind of height, and we'll get to our apoapsis. We'll switch back to this mode because I like to see this this kind of picture. You can see the mun over there. It's not be too long before we're even visiting the mun, actually. And we will face towards the retrograde vector, and we'll burn our engines. In fact, we'll burn all of our engines until we are out of fuel. We're out of fuel. What's our periapsis at? Well, our periapsis has now gone into the planet. It does not take much delta V, it does not take much fuel, it does not take much engine power, if you like, to actually bring ourselves back to Kerbin. As you can see, we are going to make it, and we're going to splash down, potentially on land, probably in the ocean here. As we come down back towards the planet, we will be landing on the light side of the planet as well, fortunately, but we are going to be landing on pretty much the opposite side of the planet to Kerbal Space Center. That's the Kerbal Space Center there, that red dot, and we're going to be landing on the other side of the world, which, well, it's not amazing, but it'll do, I guess. And let's just do a quick crew report, see if there's anything we can get. I don't think we can because we've already been out of the atmosphere, so we just need to come back down, basically, and as we come down, we're going to start burning up pretty harshly. I mean, we're going at 2,200 meters per second and gaining at the moment. We will be burning up as we re-enter the atmosphere. And you know what? We'll take a view from the cockpit. Let's just rotate our vessel around here so that we have a view of the planet. There we go. Oh, come on. There we go. Controls are very sensitive when you've got things on 4 times speed. We'll go to IVA mode, and we'll have a look out the window. You can actually see the planet below us there, just out of our tiny little hatch. Jebediah has got a nice view of Kerbin, that's for sure. We'll zoom in fact, and see what happens. Well, as we come down, we're going to start seeing flames going over the window here. The planet looks pretty close, in fact, from this this angle. I'm worried that we are actually... There we go, now we're burning up through the atmosphere, and those flame effects, they are just something else, you got to admit. There's the water going by below us, and we're going to switch out of IVA mode here because we're getting quite low into the atmosphere, and we'll want to flip our vessel around here. Oh no, we won't want to keep it facing retrograde. deploy our chutes, and we can get back into IVA mode for good measure, I guess, and enjoy the view of the horizon there and the water, which we are about to splash down into. I think we are going to land in the water. Yeah, we are. Look at that. Coming right down there. I prefer to splash down, to be honest with you. It's much safer, though it's less ideal. And in fact, you know, SpaceX recently, or last year, they unveiled their Dragon 2 capsule, which is supposed to be able to do landings. Well, it's like a space capsule like this for 7 people, and it's supposed to be able to land anywhere on land with the precision of a helicopter. That's pretty awesome. It doesn't actually use parachutes. It would use engines coming down. It will re-enter. It will fire its onboard engines to basically slow itself, and then it will land itself on a landing pad back where it basically launched from. That would be pretty awesome. And you know what? We are kind of tight for funds here. You know, might think, yeah, we've got 150,000 Kerbin monies, and that's true. We have got a lot of money, but we are going to have to spend that money on upgrading our facilities, and really we should be trying to land back at the Kerbal Space Center whenever we can. So that's going to be our goal for future missions. Obviously this one was a landmark mission in Kerbal history, orbiting the planet for the very first time, and our parachutes there deploying as we come down. So next time we go out there into outer space, we will try and land back at the Kerbal Space Center. That's going to be our goal. Obviously it's easier said than done, but landing back near the Space Center gives us more return on funds once we actually recover our vessel. So anyway, we're going to land down here. Unfortunately, I actually accepted another contract, the Rockemex 487S, which is a very tiny piddly engine, about half the size of this, with less than half the power. And they wanted us to test it on a suborbital trajectory. Unfortunately, that was not going to happen with that mission. But there we go. We are splashed down, and we'll recover our vessel here. Of course, we're not going to get a whole lot of science, but we will get some science for recovering a vessel that has been on an orbit of Kerbin. There we go, 10 science for that, and of course we got ourselves 30 science for doing the mission of orbiting the planet, which is pretty awesome. 219,000 funds, Kerbal dollars, and Jebediah actually just gained some more experience. I can only assume that that is from orbiting the planet, and he's now advanced to level 1. I'm not actually sure what the Kerbals achieve from upgrading their levels. Okay, so when you level them up, you basically get more perks, I think. This effect here of being level 1 now means that he can have a prograde or retrograde hold, which is going to be useful, actually. We'll put that to use later on, and you'll see that. So let's quickly nip into our R&D department here. Unfortunately, we still can't afford any of the tier 5 stuff. Is this tier 5 or tier 4? Whatever. But we can afford some general construction or flight control things. Now, flight control could be useful. Getting an inline reaction wheel would mean we could send people like Bob and Bill up who don't necessarily have the piloting skills, which this inline reaction wheel should have. I don't know if that would actually count as an SAS module though, so I'm not sure. Other things we could get another radial decoupler, and a docking port, and a tricoupler as well, which would be for larger engines, more engines that you can attach to a fuel tank. I'm really unsure what to go with at the moment, and you know what? I don't think we're going to go with anything just yet. We're going to head back into mission control for good measure, and well, we've got some more missions right here. We've got a mission to explore the Mun. Now that's going to be a huge undertaking, and I'm not sure if we've got the required scientific knowledge to do that just yet. Other stuff we've got though are tests to do things whilst orbiting the planet, and when we look at this, 570 reputation, 115,000 funds. That is a lot of funds and science that we can achieve from doing this. So what's this? This is they want us to test an SRB. That is going to be quite difficult though, because we've got to lug an SRB up to Kerbin orbit, and that would be kind of difficult. We could test the Poodle liquid engine, but unfortunately we don't have the wide enough fuel tanks to do that, and test a small gear bay orbiting Kerbin. Now that sounds like something we could very easily do. A small gear bay, it weighs nothing, and we only have to have one of them as well on the rocket, so we'll accept that contract. Yeah, we will. Alright, awesome stuff. Gene's going to be very happy with us for accepting that one. And we are going to be very happy if we pull this off. So let's head into our VAB and basically go and attach the small gear bay to our rocket. And this is going to be so easy. It's going to be easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Basically, we have to just stick that on there, retract it, and start it, retract it, and then just go up to our altitude with that. Now, we were a little tight getting up to altitude, and I'm gonna probably add another fuel tank onto our bottom stage here, because I want to just get a little bit further up, and we can do that with another fuel tank. So I'll remove our engine temporarily. I'll take off this rocket fuel tank, and we'll add a larger fuel tank. You know what? We'll add that one there. That should do the trick nicely. Stick that on the bottom. And we have to be very careful. Got to conserve parts as well. And then we will put our SRBs back on, but lower them down a little bit so that they are helping to prop the vessel up as well. And that should be it. We're going to be able to go up, test that gear bay there, and we are going to have a little bit more Delta V as well. 5,000 Delta V now, which means we are going to get a lot more out of this vessel. In fact, this could even be enough to go and visit the Mun, which we will probably not do in this mission, but we could certainly do in the next. So let's launch up now with the NovaStar 9. And hopefully we're going to be able to get this thing into orbit. So we'll quickly launch off. As we know, we don't need to have too much use of this main liquid fuel engine just yet. But yeah, let's go for it. Going to be a little slower launch because we have got more fuel on board, but we're going to easily surpass that 100 meters per second mark. And let's just keep things going up right here at a decent pace. I'm going to keep this this engine, the Maverick, on about a third, all the way up, unless we start losing speed. So, oh dear, that was a little bit of an explosion there. I'm not sure what I thought of that. Let's keep it at half throttle then as we go up here, and we are again going to be looking to get up to orbit. We should be able to do it easily, or more easily now. We have an extra fuel tank on here, or a larger fuel tank. And we'll slowly but surely start our gravity turn nice and early at 8,000 meters. We are gaining height very quickly. Oh, don't want to turn too far. I've had issues in the past where I've aggressively turned the vessel to the right here. I've tilted the vessels to the right in the past, and it's just gone nope, and it just flops over, and then you are struggling to bring the nose back up, and then everything just breaks off into a million pieces. It's very bad when that happens, and I was hoping to avoid that. Hey, look, our landing gear even has lights on it. How fancy is that? We actually just have to click run test. It's as simple as that. Once we get up to orbit, we just have to run the test. And we'll quickly check here if there's anything we've missed. So before the test, click run test whilst you are in orbit of 76,000 meters. So that's going to be easy stuff to do. We've already proven that we can get up there. We just have to raise our apoapsis up to 75,000 meters, and it's going to be easy peasy. I'm sure of that. Gaining velocity extremely quickly here, as this engine is a beast. In fact, it's probably a little bit much for what we need. But let's power up here slightly with this smaller engine that we have. Bring our apoapsis up to 80,000. Why not? And we'll fast forward until we get there, basically. Now these maneuvers, I guess, can get a little tedious after a while, and we're going to be doing this a lot. We have got a few parts to test. But I assure you, it is all for a good cause. Obviously, once we've tested a few parts, brought them up to orbit, deployed the landing gear, just to see what it will do, I guess, out here. Once we've done that kind of stuff, we're going to unlock so many new parts that it's going to make it much easier to get to places like the Moon and to Minmus. Now, surprisingly, it's actually easier to get to Minmus and land on Minmus than it is to get to the Mun. If we actually just position our vessel in the right place a second here. A little bit aggressive there. Anyway, if we zoom out quickly, you can see the Mun is at 11 11 million meters above Kerbin's surface, and Minmus is 46 million meters above from the surface. So you might be thinking, well, how on earth is it going to be easier to land on Minmus than it is to land on the Mun? And that is simply because Minmus is a lot smaller. Now, you've seen already how little power, how little energy we need to move around once we're in outer space, and that is especially true the further away from Kerbin you go. In fact, to get to the Mun we'll need about 800 meters per second in delta V from low Kerbin orbit, which is what we're putting ourselves into now. And to get to Minmus we'll need just 900 meters per second of delta V, so we need an extra 100 meters a second to get from the Mun to Minmus when we need 800 to get to the Mun alone. So you can see there just how things scale the further out you go from the planet, and that is especially true the further out we'll go, even from Kerbin as well, and into the wider solar system. Of course, for now, though, we are going to be focusing on Minmus and the Mun, as they are the most prominent things in the Kerbin night sky. But it's certainly worth bearing that in mind, that going to Minmus will actually be easier than going to the Mun in the early stages of the game. So anyway, believe it or not, we're up to orbit. We are at an altitude of 76,000. I think, what altitude are we at actually? 81,000. We're getting a little bit on the high side, but we have met all of our test conditions. We can activate our gear bay. We can run that test, and there you go. Contract complete. We brought the small gear bay up to outer space, into orbit, and we tested it. I don't know what tests we did, but we got ourselves 42,000 funds, 41 science, and, well, that is a ton, an absolute ton of prestige there, 535. So now we just got to bring ourselves back down, and like I said earlier on, we want to bring ourselves down over the Kerbal Space Center. Now, obviously, you can see we're kind of orbiting in line with it. Now, instead of bringing our apoapsis down, our periapsis down from the apoapsis, we're going to wait until we're a little closer to the space center, and then we will fire retrograde, as you guys have seen before, and we're going to try and bring ourselves down basically in the ocean, or maybe even on land, near to KSC. So, also, you may notice down here on the left side of the nav ball, we've actually got ourselves a few different things, and I can only assume this is from upgrading Jebediah's piloting skills, right? He is now a level 1 pilot, and that means that we can use these little buttons to, well, basically point the ship in a direction that we desire without worrying too much about doing it manually. I mean, I would normally just do this by holding WAS and D and positioning things manually, but Jebediah is going to do that for us now. We just have to click retrograde and he'll point the ship to retrograde, so making things much easier for us, that's for sure. So we'll speed things up here slightly. We want to get a bit closer to KSC here, and let's start burning retrograde now. Lower our orbit and try and dip inside of the atmosphere. Now, if we got to time this very carefully. We don't want to come down too aggressively. I'd love to know what height we were over KSC there. Now, as you can see, we will hit the atmosphere around this area, maybe even here, in fact. And in doing so, we will slow down naturally on the atmosphere. So we don't want to bring our velocity down too much here. We just want to dip our periapsis inside the planet, and I think that will leave us pretty close to KSC. We'll speed things up, and we'll find out, I guess, as we come down over the planet now. And well, Jebediah going to keep our vessel nice and level as we come down. Hopefully close to the KSC, because like I said earlier on, the closer we land to it, the more value we get back from salvaging the parts of this vessel. Down we go, and I don't know if we're going. I don't know if we're going too high here. We might overshoot it and land in the ocean, but to be honest with you, I'd rather overshoot and land in the ocean than land on land anyway. It's a little risky landing on land. I know we're going to be fine. We've got landing gear. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? We'll land it on this one wheel, right? Not quite, but still. We'll be able to land on land just fine, because we still have the 3 parachutes, but still. I think landing on water is always the safer option. Now then, we're going to start hitting the atmosphere here at 40-ish thousand meters. We're not burning up just yet because the atmosphere is very thin up here, but it's certainly slowing us down. You can see, in fact, that our trajectory here is being brought closer and closer to KSC, as, in fact, if we look right about now, you'll see there's KSC below us. As we burn up in the atmosphere here, we are definitely going to overshoot it, but not by much. You might think, yeah, we're going at 1,700 meters a second, we're flying by, but we are going to slow down very, very quickly here as we get lower and dip lower into the atmosphere. I don't know what kind of temperature we're looking at right here. This is going to be pretty damn hot, as you can probably tell by the massive flames coming off the vessel, and notice the lack of heat shield as well. So this engine should be exploding right now, but I don't have a mod like deadly re-entry enabled at the moment. You know, I could enable that. That would certainly make things very challenging. Deadly re-entry would throw a few spanners in the works, that's for sure. But we're going to land down there. KSC is really not too far away, and we're going to work our way through the atmosphere. The parachute slowing us right down, and for a routine landing, really, not much different with this landing than we've seen before. As we come down to 500 meters, the parachutes will deploy and bring ourselves down to sea level. So I put the landing gear down in hope that we can use it to land. It does not look promising. Oh, oh my goodness, look at that. The landing gear, if you can see it under the water, is just, oh, that worked. Well, it didn't actually work. If we put the rocket engine on now, I'm a little bit scared, because if we put it on, we might not go anywhere. No, we're not going anywhere. Oh, that's a shame. I was hoping we could, like, I don't know, make a boat or something. You can't make boats in this game. But anyway, we've splashed down successfully. We did our test and we completed our contract. Let's just recover our vessel here and see how much value we got back from that. We're going to get a little bit more than if we had done things any other way and landed on the other side of the planet. 3,700 funds back, not bad at all. Just landing 79 kilometers from KSC, which is certainly not too bad. Jebediah has returned safely, and our reputation is getting up very high now. The higher your reputation, the better contracts you are going to be able to achieve and to unlock. Now, we'll have a look back in here later on, but let's go into R&D now. 111 science. That's a whole bunch, and that's going to mean that we can unlock one of these tier 5 things if we like. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to unlock a tier 5 part, or tier 4 part, whichever way you want to look at it. I would say 1, 2, 3, yeah, tier 4. I can't count. But yeah, I don't know what we should go for here. It's always a tough decision because science is not the most abundant thing in the game. You have to be very careful with what you're choosing. I'm so tempted to go with heavy rocketry just because bigger tanks, bigger rockets, right? But in fact, you know, if we got heavy rocketry now, we're hardly going to be able to use any of this stuff anyway, because we don't have any connectors to connect these larger 2.5 meter parts to our piddly 1.5 meter parts, or is it 1.25 meters? Yeah, 1.25 meters. There's no connectors. We need the construction stuff for that. So I mean, really, we're kind of stuck. We should just upgrade. I think we should just upgrade these two and go through the tech tree bit by bit. I think. I mean, why not? We'll set ourselves that challenge. We'll upgrade each tier entirely before moving on to the next tier. And there are quite a few tiers after this. It will go on quite a way. So, there we go. We've unlocked ourselves general construction and flight control. It's not going to be too useful to us at the moment, but there will be more contracts that we can fulfill and more stuff that we can get science from. In fact, I think in the very next episode, we are going to launch a mission to go and orbit the moon and perhaps not land on it. I don't think we have the ability to do that yet, but we can certainly reach the moon. And in doing so, we'll be able to do more scientific experiments from within the moon's sphere of influence, and we'll be able to get a whole heap of science from that and hopefully unlock some more parts, because the real amazing thing here is setting yourself the challenge of completing things with the very limited technology you have available. And once you actually unlock these better parts, you really appreciate them. And I'm sure that is going to be the case right here. So thanks very much, guys, for watching. We had some pretty awesome missions in this episode, and I'm looking forward to bringing you guys some more from NovaStar International at the Kerbal Space Center. So thank you very much for watching. As usual, I have been Zach, and I will see you all next time.